There is always a constraint. Constraints are clear, they're visible, you can easily identify them and analyze to a certain extent. For example, you add a little bit extra chili, cinnamon, oregano, nutmeg, anything to your food. You think you want to add that extra character to the meal. Guess what? You ruined it. Constraint: taste buds receptors are too saturated by these tastes, so it's difficult for other flavors to register. Also, all of these sound great on their own, but once you combine all of them, not so much anymore. If you hit the constraint, you would probably end up with a ruined eating experience. Well, now coffee. Constraint: there is so much caffeine that can be somewhat safely handled by the body. If you hit the constraint, you would end up all jittery and take very shaky pictures. Now, let's look at the screen time, socials, TV, stuff like that. Constraint: you need to make it to that bus stop on time to take a lazy ass to work at 7 a.m. If you hit the constraint, you feel tired the whole day because you didn't sleep or didn't sleep enough due to all the screen time. Okay, music next. You turn up the volume to feel those frequencies. Constraint: your ears can take so much before it starts to... Exercise. Constraint: your own endurance and stored calories. If you hit the constraint, your whole cardiovascular system is in shock because, well, it didn't get to experience anything similar since probably middle school. Oh, you are still safe here. You can keep going for a little while. Too much jewelry. Everything looks very shiny. Constraint: not enough fingers. Wait, what was the constraint here again? Constraints are easily identifiable. They're visible. Unlike the balance, which is usually hidden out of plain sight, unless you pay really close attention to it and analyze it properly. The balance goes hand in hand with moderation. Constraints are not the same as moderation. One is usually externally imposed, and the other one is internal. Even though most of the time it probably has been externally suggested to you, because frankly, you don't know all the facts all the times, and sometimes you Google it. For example, do you know what is the safe limit to listen to the sounds to at 80 dB without potentially damaging your hearing? So it's 8 hours. If you increase that to 85 dB, it becomes 4 hours. It's a half. It's madness. But moderation alone is nothing. The context is crucial. Sometimes constraints can be helpful, and hitting them makes wonders. Like, for example, making a movie with just the equipment that you already have, or writing a music album with a few carefully selected instruments. It can spark creativity. Moderation is always subjective. Constraints are usually objective. Sometimes they can be subjective. But the balance is highly contextual. It merges both subjective and objective things at the same time. Out of breath. Exercise earlier. Balancing is dictated by individual taste, and apparently it's different for different cultures and different for different people within those cultures. So balancing is quite individual, and we all have to deal with that. One imposes their own limitations on their salt or sugar intake because they want to be healthier and have their own ideas about what tasty is. One balances the mix. One would usually impose their own restrictions on the number of coffee cups in a day because they enjoy the ritual in the morning and not because they cannot handle more caffeine. Drinking coffee all day long will ruin the significance of the morning ritual. You balance the pleasure, stimulating effects, and minimize the health-related risks. You don't wear too many jewelry rings because they are too expensive. Wait, that can't be right. Well, it could be true for someone, but I think you're right. For the vast majority of people, that just looks weird. And here's the big one, the revelation. The main constraint is usually time, and I don't mean it as in lifetime. I mean it in a more narrow sense, like there's only 24 hours in a day. Okay, think about this. You spend your whole day writing a script for a film, but by the end of the day, you haven't even thought of opening the DAW for making music. Okay, now let's pretend you spend your whole day writing music. First of all, your ears are swollen by now, and again, fine. You work on writing script in the morning, and then you open a DAW in the afternoon. But your family is asleep by now, so yeah, no good. Your balance is shit. You could dig one layer deeper. You are working on music. The project is almost done, but you are trying to nail down just this one bit that no one will ever notice. You've got to moderate the effort you put into things that do not matter, as these small inefficiencies will spill over onto the outer layers like script, music, exercise, family level. Being more efficient here, less perfect, would probably mean more time for other things. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to being able to take control of the things that you can control, and placing those things in the appropriate balance according to the given context. I think I might be using words moderation, self-control, and balance interchangeably here. I'm not too sure if it makes sense, but you know what I mean, right? I noticed that the world started to feel a bit much for me lately. The more I watch it, the more it watches me. Never mind, it was just a stupid phrase. Never mind. But the thing is, worrying about it too much, reading all the news the whole day, is exactly the thing that can steal you from your life, from your family. And what's actually probably true is that it brings zero value to most of us. And it's just the way to get us entertained and away from boredom, to keep you distracted from the things that you actually should be doing. And yet it's not immediately obvious. What is the moderate consumption? You still want to know what's going on in the world in general. I don't think one can allow content, news, script writing, music making to steal you away from your life, from the important things. You cannot allow it to occupy all your time, because time is ruthless and it keeps running away whether you're paying attention to it or not. So constraints here are horrible guidance. Here's an example from my music making experience that I think could be applicable here. When making a track, I feel tempted to solo just the drums, for example, to hear them more clearly, to understand them better, but there's no way to tell whether they are too loud or too quiet without the context of the whole mix. I can solo them on and off, but that's arguably not the most optimal solution. You would be focusing on the drums, and that's where you would get it wrong. What I try to do, though, is to listen to all the parts of the track at the same time and mute the drum track instead, on and off, paying attention not to the drums, but to everything else around it as I do so. Sometimes getting rid of something or hiding it temporarily might actually help you figure out if that thing was too dominant or too quiet in your life. Just mute it and then unmute it and observe everything else around it. And if you're planning to deliberately not miss things in your life, unlike that 7 a.m. bus, of course, you have to pay attention to the context, adjust the balance, moderate everything you can control accordingly, and make choices.